Are all Cardassians bad? Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with your stars, Aaron Eisenberg and Sirach Lofton. We are also joined by special guest, Nana Visitor. How are you, Nana?
I'm great. How are you doing?
So good, thanks. My name is Ryan T. Husk, and welcome to the Seventh Rule. Let's get into it. Today we are covering Duet, one of the best episodes so far. I think we all agree, maybe the best so far in the first season.
So this Duet episode, I think, is awesome. I want to really get into it because I think you really killed this episode, Nana.
Knocked it out of the park.
Thanks, guys.
So much so that I don't think I've seen a stronger female character in Star Trek up until this point. I think you set the bar for it. I don't know about the Next Generation and the original series, which came before. But to me, this is like the gold standard of just strong female performance, strong character, in depth, and then the writing is so rich with content
and colored.
Yeah.
Just real quick, my favorite part of that comment, Sirach, was watching Nana smiling, kind of with a "Yeah, I know."
Well, I mean, you know what? It needs to be said because sometimes these things go unsaid, and people don't say things that are sometimes very obvious. But you can't tell me somebody before this point in Star Trek lore that is better or stronger or just that passionate. And I think that's one of the things that makes your character so great is the passion. You really lead with your heart. You really fight with your passion. And I want you to tell me a little bit about that.
Well, two things about the passion. You know, when people would say to me, this isn't real, right? It wasn't real, but it was true. My feeling has always been that whatever I'm doing in a character has been lived before. Maybe not in space, maybe not in an orange jumpsuit, but those are minor details to me. The seed of the emotion, the loss, the fight for dignity, whatever it is, I'm representing someone who's gone through it sometime, somewhere. So it's always been deeply important to me. The other thing is, I was smiling so much when you said that because, first of all, it means the world to hear you say that. Second of all, I was pushing the envelope. Now it's like, yeah, that's a strong woman and that's fine. We all accept it. Back then, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm. That's 25 years ago.
I got a lot of pushback. Why
really?
Are you trying? Oh, God, yes. Why are you trying to act like a man? That's not the way females are strong. But I was trying to say, why do you have an idea of how females are strong?
Wow.
Why does it have to be in a box? Everything from the way I sat, because I sat with my feet, on the ground, and my legs weren't crossed, or what's considered at that time a typical female way of sitting. But that was, or even having appetites. Back then, actors tended to copy what they saw other actors do and call that the truth of life, as opposed to what's really true. And I always tried to get back to what is really truth.
Wow. And there's an intensity in your eyes when you're in your performance that it's almost like you're ready to punch somebody. It's like, I feel like it's like a boxer. It's like a boxer who's like in the ring just about before the fight. It's really intimidating. Where do you get that from?
I don't know if I got it from Kira, from exercising that muscle, but I do make people nervous. And people have said, don't look at me like that. And it's like, what? I'm just looking at you. But I do kind of, when I look at people, it's like, I want in. I want all the way in. And I'm going to go all the way in to who I'm looking at. and that can be unnerving, I guess, especially for young sons. My sons were like, "Oh, Mama, please," when they were little. Now they can handle me, but back then it was like, "Oh, it's too much."
At this point in the show, where were you, and where did you think Kira was? Because obviously she has a huge trajectory coming up on the show, right, over the next several seasons. And at this point, it's pretty apparent she hasn't let go of a lot, and she still is almost still in the war. She's still, right, there's this battle inside. And one of the greatest things I like about the show that I feel they kind of dropped the ball a little bit in the previous episode with Renee's character is your relationship with Odo now. In the first, was it the first or second episode, you have you seek his counsel, and in this one you do it again, and yet and in the previous one he went to Cisco's counsel for Troy and what have you. And I want him to go to you to build up that relationship even more. So again, I'll ask that question again. So that relationship obviously has some history, right? And then you're still fighting this war, and we see so much of it in this as you want vengeance. You truly want vengeance.
One of the most interesting things I thought they did with the writing is that the Bajorans were depicted as racists. The victims of the situation of this Holocaust. And it happens. But in this episode, it came face to face with the fact that even though one could say my people were the victim of this aggressive group, I had to deal with the fact I was playing a racist. I absolutely was. And part of my evolution was, to be able to work side by side with Damar by the end of the show. But the soldiers and Marines coming back from Afghanistan with post-traumatic stress and, issues of not being able to leave what, their brains have been programmed with what they've been living through. That was where I started with Kira. She's messed up from an occupation, from being a terrorist, from the things she did. And it was during that shooting that show that I realized how if you're not careful, you can do a lot of damage if you're playing a traumatic role. I started having dreams, Kira dreams, not my own, of being in a labor camp and trying to get away. And the panic was real. The panic I woke up with that night was my body reacting with Kira's reality. So that's, it went deep. And it was a traumatic role. It was a very traumatic role to play for 7 years. And it did leave damage that I've had to clean up.
Actors, we're so vulnerable. Oh, sorry, Sirach. We're so vulnerable, especially someone like you who really sounds like completely opens up herself to the role that you're playing and allows everything to come in and in order to deliver that honesty and that truth. And that has that toll, as you say,
It does.
It's pretty amazing. And I think that's something that maybe others that don't understand, that other people, they don't realize that actors that choose that path and how much that really opens them up and how much it makes us who we are, and how parallel our characters are to ourselves, which is really, really fascinating.
It fascinated me so much that I've studied and read a lot of neuroscience, and I understand a lot more about what parts of our brains react, what actually happens to us when we're acting a character as a character. And it's taking me down a fascinating path. I want to help young actors not feel that they have to abuse themselves to get into a flow state of acting, which is what I do, and learn a healthy way to live with that and do it and come in and out of it. And that's what I'm involved with right now, to help young actors do it deep, but know how to get out of the deep, to have a rope to come out, which I didn't have, you know.
One thing I wanted to say was that this episode didn't have any special effects. There weren't any spaceship scenes.
No fireballs.
No, and most of the scenes were two people in a room, and it carried the whole show without any moment of dull, without any moment of, oh man, I'm not getting enough here. I felt like I was really on the edge of my seat. It was super intense. And one of the emotions that it draws on for me is the Holocaust, as you mentioned earlier. I felt like I was watching a Nazi soldier and a Holocaust survivor,
yes, absolutely,
freedom fighter, argue their points on their perspective. You know, this is what you did to me, and this is why I had to do it. And it brought so much emotion, and I wanted, you know, I just really want to credit also, who was that played
Harris Yulin?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
We were talking about beforehand how blown away we were by this guy. So good.
Because he meets you at that level of intensity, and he really brings that out of you as well. So you can really almost you almost hate the guy, you know, when he starts to become arrogant about how he.
I don't know if hate's the right word, because it showed the gray in the situation. Yes, you know, the atrocities and everything that happened, but there's something else going on with him, you know, and as he was Goldar heel, it was almost me going, I don't think he is. I think he's speaking almost like a third person, and there's a resentment, there's a tone, there was something in that was like, wow, this is really, as you mentioned earlier, self-loathing. There is something underneath this. And I felt like the best bad guys are the ones that you can, in some places, empathize with, or that you can connect with and go, ooh, that's scary. And again, both of you together and like Sirach said, arguing your points. Oh, it was so powerful.
It was, yeah.
And don't forget, Harris Yulin was a guest star, which means he wasn't familiar with the long speeches. He never had that makeup on, which I had on, and let me tell you, it is not easy to act with all that. It's so hard, and that he was able to do that level of performance and not feel like he was wearing a bunch of prosthetics on his face. It was amazing. I thought it was brilliant, amazing performance. When he goes from crying derisively to actual crying, it tore my heart out. Tore my heart out.
And those are the wonderful moments for us as actors, when you just are like, oh, this is what we want. We strive for, to have that ball being thrown back, that honesty between two actors, that duet, if you will, you know. And
the moment when he actually, at the end, when he dies or when he's murdered, when he's killed, it was like the thing you wanted the whole time the most, actually now you didn't want. And that to me is just another like play on how the writers were really brilliant on this show to put the right moral spins on things, and to really question, you know, how we think and what we think about and how to perceive. And I think that you did a great job as far as showing that, as embodying that in the scene, in the performance.
Thank you, Sirach. Yeah, a lot of gray, and you certainly can't have an ego as the character. I never tried to protect her as a hero, you know, quote unquote, of the show. That she was wrong and that she'd step in it big time was really important for me.
I have a question for you. Did you know this was coming? You know, like, this is what episode number, Ryan?
19-ish.
19 or something. So we're 18 episodes in, and we've kind of touched upon your character throughout these 19. And we're still, as actors, now I'm on the set a lot less frequently at this time than the two of you for the most part. And as you're going week to week, episode to episode, and you can see all the actors kind of finding, their idiosyncratic character traits, who they are, the history of their characters. And I'm curious if you knew something like this, Duet, was coming, or if you had already made those choices prior, or did you let this episode direct you in where you wanted to go?
That one. It wasn't where I wanted to go.
Oh.
It was where it was what was being cultivated and what unfolded. And that's how she came about. It really did inform me hugely, this episode. Hugely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah. So I'm curious from your point of view, when you come on the show, what were the things that you set forth for Kira, for you, and where you thought or had wanted it to go, and then it apparently with this episode took you in another direction?
Not in another direction.
Okay.
It was my intention for this character was to show up and tell the truth of her experience and keep my head down when people didn't like it. And a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people.
God, I can't believe that.
Really reacted badly. And yeah, I mean, I was too aggressive. Yeah. I was a bitch. I was this, I was that. One person on set who fully supported how I did her was Mr. Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
How did we guess?
You should have asked us.
I knew that was coming. Yep.
Yeah.
And interesting enough, there's moments where you really challenge him, where it's almost like he has to remind you, I'm in charge here.
Yeah.
Yes, but when she said, but you said, I'm your friend. And the wonderful thing that I love about Avery is how he changes from that commander to there's a vulnerability that he brings in every so often. And in that scene with you and him at that table, he concedes and says, okay, you can run the investigation because you convinced him. And he goes, and he plays that so well.
He listens. Yeah. There's a quote that I wish I could find. And I won't. Ah, my God! I went right to it. This is Mark Depot, and this is how Avery listens. To listen is to lean in softly with a willingness to be changed by what we hear. A willingness to be changed by what we hear, and that is exactly how he would work.
Yes, absolutely.
And you talk about the choices that you made as an actor, and that a lot of people were kind of against it. But 25 years later, I think I speak for just about all the fans when we say thank you for making the choices that you made as a professional and as a person, but also having the strength to kind of hang on to that. And you were almost like a real life Kira in that you were hanging on to what you believe was right. And you kind of put it up to history to decide if you made the right choices. And I do believe that history is showing that you did make the right choices. So thank you for that.
I can't believe it. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's amazing.
I'm totally shocked that you told me that you had so much pushback. I'm absolutely shocked by that. I feel so naive.
I'm not really shocked. I mean, we're coming
I'm shocked.
It sounds par for the course, kind of.
Yeah. There was a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of stereotypes, and women were supposed to behave like this and do this, and that's just the way.
Women well, other women did not like it.
I guess this is a bit of my being naive, or as I say, growing up in Disneyland, in the sense that strong women. I mean, I grew up with a single mom who worked 9 to 5, who raised me. I hate that when I get emotional about my mom, and she did everything she could to give me the best world she could. So for me, seeing a strong woman isn't something that I would think others would give pushback to, meaning that's my ignorance. That's my I can never say that, naivete in a sense. And it's interesting that you get pushback and yet you've inspired so many people. For example, Melissa, your character 100% was who she just walked in, connected to on our show. You are her inspiration. And so I never knew that. I'm really, I feel so dumb, but I'm so shocked, especially because you committed to what you were given right in the script also. So, and I'm so glad, I'm so happy you didn't let that shut you down, which is the parallel between you and Kira, you know, why you are so much a part of Kira and vice versa. And I think that happens to all of our characters, especially over the 7 years and the writers being so close and getting to know us. It's an amazing paradigm.
We spent more time being our characters than we did being ourselves during those 7 years. I know I did. I was more Kira than anything else.
You know, it's funny because I named my daughter Kyra, and I think I subliminally, and without even knowing it, because I didn't do this purposefully, but I think I named her after your character.
I never thought of that. That never crossed my mind.
It's literally the same spelling, just with an extra A. And it's crazy. I think that just reading the script and being around you, I think I subliminally named my daughter after you.
Wow. You heard it here first.
Well, I'm glad you didn't name her Nog, because that would have
it would have been really tough for her. It would have been really tough.
She would have had a rough life.
Oh yeah, but you know, you have an interesting take on things too, because if I'm not mistaken, you had a baby while you were on the show. Is that not right? Or
that's right. As a matter of fact, it was pretty trippy because I thought, you know what, I haven't seen this episode for a long time. I'm going to sit down and watch it, and I did yesterday. And I sat down and watched it with Siddigs and my child, Alexander Siddigs, and my child, who's now 22 years old. And it was bizarre to go back to that time and go, if I had known that was what?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Right.
I had a 3-month-old when we shot the pilot.
Mm-hmm.
And had my son Django in the middle of shooting, and it was, not easy. It was tough. And it was yet another situation of being a woman. I remember going, oh my God, when I got pregnant, I'm going to get fired, and they'll be right too. It'll be acceptable. Someone, an actress, had just been fired off of the show for getting pregnant. I thought it's going to happen to me, and when they didn't, my whole thing was no one's going to feel that I'm pregnant. I don't want anyone to have to do anything special, to the point of being foolish. I did that because I was in labor for some of the last scenes that I shot before I gave birth. I was in labor. I was in pain, and I was like, nope, no one's going to know. I remember one of the prop guys saying, do you want a chair? And I was in labor, and I went, no, I'm fine. I'll just stand here. It's dumb.
Wow.
Watching the episode yesterday, Avery's performance, I thought, was like an axis for all of us to rotate on.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's very subtle the way he does it. It's super subtle. It's very gentle. It's the way he doesn't yell when you would think he would yell. It's the way he asserts his position of power.
The way he listens.
And the way he listens.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's not like, I'm the boss. I'm in charge. Things go my way. No. It's really like, it's so thoughtful. It's so delicate. Even the way he talks with the other commanders of ships when he's
or
talking
Gul Dukat, when he's with Gul Dukat, and Mark is not in the room obviously because he's shoot his scene because it's on the little monitor, and Mark was just so wonderful as well. And you can see the two of them. Oh, and I was thinking of in the doc when Mark was like, I didn't know you loved me. Tell me you love me. And I'm looking at him in this one scene. I'm like, he's amazing.
He's amazing.
And I'm like, come on, Mark. Really? You know?
Was amazing. He is an amazing actor. Really amazing.
And
he's
you
the guy that actually got me into acting, watching him on Deep Space Nine. I think I mentioned that before, was when I had no thoughts of doing any acting at all when I moved to LA as a musician. And I kind of got dragged into a theater class very late in life. And I was watching Star Trek, reruns of Deep Space Nine. And I just remember seeing this guy putting out these amazing performances. And I was like, wow, that would be really fun to do. And I thought about it. I was like, well, I'm taking acting classes. I guess I could do that. Why not do it? And then I just started doing a bunch of villain roles and having a blast doing it. But anyway, so you actors definitely inspire people. You inspire people in everything they do, not just in acting. But I'm sure Nana, your character, inspired tons of people, not just actors, but in whatever they do. And if
they don't fit into a box, they tend to like Kira. They tend to feel like it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to let everyone have their thoughts about you. You can still live who you are and your truth regardless.
Golda here was laying in the bed, and the way the lighting was kind of over his eye, I really enjoyed that. I don't know if that was something the director pulled off or not, and then he sits up into a two-shot. Tell me a little bit about working with him.
James Conway is kind of like the Avery Brooks of directing, because he's very subtle and he doesn't do a lot, but he is the axis that allows you to do what you do. And I remember feeling such a bond, not a bond, but almost like
synergy.
You know how Navy SEALs work together, like a hive mentality? There was like a hive mentality where everyone was doing their job and we were together, but we didn't have to talk too much about it. I think he was really wonderful. But of course, we didn't know it was going to come out well. It felt like it was a disaster when we were shooting it.
Really?
Yeah, we weren't like, this is blowaway stuff. Oh my God.
Really?
It felt like a disaster.
Why? What was
it just didn't flow from scene to scene. Harris and I were like, stop, start together.
That's what was good about it, yeah.
Well, that's what was good, but it felt horrible.
Well, might have been partially because they had to cram so much into one episode, like they do oftentimes.
Yeah.
There were so many different beats, and when you were talking initially about how your emotions are real and people tell you it's not real, well, it is real because obviously you are playing a character that is based on something real that people do identify with. These are emotions that people really have felt and do feel, and the actor is, harnessing that and portraying that. So it's absolutely real. And that's kind of, what you guys go through when you're acting. And the two of you were doing that every 2 minutes, and it was almost like, and I think that's where the title Duet comes from. There was like this tug of war going on where he has the upper hand and then you have the upper hand. And they were cramming in all of these chapters into 42 minutes or 45 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why it felt so difficult, but it came out beautifully. It just moved very quickly, and the emotional beats, which are very important in screenwriting, were each very different and very powerful, and just kept raising the stakes.
It's interesting you say that. In the scenes in the security area, when he's in jail and you guys are going back and forth, everything seemed to have been shot literally in a single. Went from a single on him to a single on you, and a single. There wasn't an over the shoulder. There really wasn't a wide shot. So when you say that now, I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's why they use singles more, because then whatever take, on the other end was given, you didn't necessarily have to use that one in that. And maybe a lot of it found the synergy in the editing of finding those beats and those moments, because you have, all of you gave such wonderful performances. So they found the right beats to work together. Maybe that's how it felt disjointed, but it came together so well. Personally, watching it, I thought there were so many things so well about this episode. I found it to be the best episode of the season. And I haven't seen there's 3 more or 2 more we have left to watch, but and the reason I liked it so much, outside of just the 2 of you, was all the little moments of how they used the rest of the cast within this episode. Everything flowed well. They came in for the information they needed to be a part of that, push the story further. And Cisco, as you said earlier, Avery was literally that access, making everything and all the pieces work, all the cogs in the wheel work together. So for me, it was one of the best flowing episodes. And so I'm surprised when you say it felt like we were like, nothing was seeming to work, and how amazing in hindsight that it's such an amazing episode. And it made me cry twice. And that's the bar I've decided to raise on Star Trek. If a Star Trek show does not make you cry in season 1, then it is not the king of Trek.
In season 1,
DS9, it is. I'm sorry. When Jake taught Nog to read, I shed a little tear, and I shed 2 tears in this one because it was so moving for the story it was telling, and the thoughts it was provoking, and the questions it was asking, and it's prevalent today as it was yesterday, as it was in the 90s and for the 50s or the 30s, all the way. It's such an important message.
A comment on Twitter that fascinated me. Some woman tweeted, I've used this episode in a class of people who've never seen Deep Space Nine before, and it was effective. And
I was thinking about that
class was about.
I was thinking that when I was watching it. I was thinking, this would be a great first episode, especially for scholars or intellectuals or screenwriters or somebody that really wants to get into the meat of a good script
or history.
Star Trek before, and if you want to show a first episode, this might be the one to do it.
I mean, if you think about what you said, that the stories you tell is somebody has this story to tell in real life. Somebody has experienced this, and what's kind of fascinating is even so far into the future, where we have space travel and we have warp drive and we have quote unquote Star Trek, we're still dealing with the same emotions. We're still dealing with the same conflicts as we did in World War II with the Holocaust. And that in of itself is very powerful. How do we keep growing and learning as humans, or as
That's
Ferengi?
Why we're storytellers.
Yeah.
There's a line in the episode where he says, "We keep you people in fear. That's how we control you." And it just resonated to me, like just in politics and the world functioning, like the keeping of people in fear, right, is such a powerful tool to control people. And
that's right.
And the other thing,
and if you're coming from your amygdala, which is the fight or flight part of your brain, everything else shuts down. Creativity, you can't be cultured and comfortable and relaxed if you're activated that way. That's why I try really hard not to read all that Twitter stuff, because it goes right to your amygdala. Boom, they got you.
Right.
That's why you muted me. Now I understand.
And the other thing that I thought this episode is that I think would be great for Star Trek in general was I came up, I don't know where or when, but it was the idea of having a Star Trek series that was like a CSI show. And to me, this is like a cop show, CSI show, where it's like you've got the criminal.
You're right.
And it's like, it's totally a future version of...
Sirach.
of CSI.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And
that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea because it's also layered with these moral questions and
with the moral questions, exactly.
You just need David Caruso. You need a future David Caruso.
Oh yeah, well, Jimmy Smith.
I'm not sure we need that.
Yeah.
Now, Aaron was actually saying earlier that he thought it was a futuristic The Shield, but
of course,
don't say that again.
No, it's show. Let's talk about The Shield.
No more talk. Aaron talks about The Shield a lot. That's the joke.
Yeah, to his
I shouldn't
detriment.
have said it. I don't want to get him started.
Nana, did you see The Shield? Okay,
I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, thank
Very
you.
good show. You guys should watch it. Ask Homer. One scene that I thought was interestingly in this episode. It was very subtle, but it was Renee's character Odo, and it was in his security office when the information of Maritza and the Cardassian was coming in. Mm-hmm. He cuts to James, or the editor cuts to Odo, and he's silent, looking away. And I wanted to know so bad what he was thinking. What did that mean? Because, he's obviously was working with the Cardassians in the scene with, we can't really leave this unsaid, with him and Gul Dukat was just golden.
It was golden.
And it made me go, oh man, what was that like? What were they doing back then? Mm-hmm. We need a pre-DS9. Okay, no, I'm kidding. But that look,
if I recall, we only played one time, and
and you cheated.
and Renee, I mean, so far Renee,
he's killing it. He's killing
it. He is so amazing. And that's why I was disappointed that he didn't go to you in the previous episode. I think it was Forsaken, right? Where the I can never say her name, but Troy's character.
Loxana, yeah.
Because I like that you go to him for counsel. That's the gray in all the characters. That's where you're softer and we see a more vulnerable side to you. Yeah. And I love that. So I just wanted to give that shout out because Renee was silent when that was said, and I wanted so bad to know what he was thinking. But
well, somebody by the name of Roman Ponop, he's got a couple questions, but the one that we really want to hear about is he says he's always wondered which of your scenes from Duet is your favorite, if you've got just a favorite scene from that episode.
No, I can't say that I do, but watching it yesterday with fresh eyes, his breakdown, Harris Yulin's breakdown scene, I think was just masterful, just absolutely beautiful. And I could see that I was moved at the time watching him perform it, watching him live it, and seeing it on screen again. It just knocked my socks off.
Yeah. And everybody at home, look up Harris Yulin, by the way. I did. And, you'll see he's one of those guys where you see all these credits and you say, oh, he's that dude. He's that. I mean, I was surprised to find out he's the old guy in Ozark.
Yeah.
Beautifully done.
Great show.
But yeah, Harris Yulin, we can't say
almost as good as The Shield.
And I did check to see if he was in any other Star Trek episodes, and I was shocked to see none.
Yeah, how did they not bring him back after?
Yeah, they missed that. They missed the ball on that.
It may have been him going, no way.
Never again.
Could easily have been.
I'm not working with that little Ferengi. He's a punk.
Wouldn't show me where craft service was.
Just give me a donut. I don't even know why he was there. He wasn't even in the episode.
Do you remember those warm chocolate chip cookies?
I still have one. You decided.
That's the only thing you took from the show.
That's a good segue.
That's all that was left.
As Marla Warren asks Nana, she says that she hears Nana is an excellent cook, and she wants to know what your favorite dish is.
Ooh.
Mochi? Is it mochi?
I don't.
Mochi. It's yammic sauce. We need more yammic sauce.
Yes. Over The Shield.
You and me. Exactly. You and me. We're going to watch The Shield together tonight. You and me.
I'll say what I'm making tomorrow night. We're having people over, and I'm going to make paella. I love regional cooking, and I make those dishes that people have Sunday dinners. in different parts of the world. That's what I love.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't have one favorite thing to cook, but tomorrow night is going to be paella.
Sounds
with
glorious.
Seafood and mussels and chicken and sausage.
Wow.
Of course, lots of rice.
You know, the best paella
and mochi for dessert?
No,
Why? What's that? Stop it with the mochi already.
Stop it. Although I like it, but
see, I'm going to learn how to make mochi, and I'm going to have the mochi factory. Mochi.
Oh God.
So now our friend Emily Steers asks a question. I think you may have already kind of answered this, but she says, what aspects of playing Kira did you most enjoy? And what aspects of Kira did you feel were most similar to you, Nina?
I think when I look back at my performance and Kira, like in this episode, I think there was, and probably is, an earnestness to me that was in her, an innate seriousness about the importance of what I do, what she did. I think that's something that we share. Also,
thine own self be true.
Yeah. Yes. And also I think in images, and I have this image of Kira and me, like a wild horse, someone trying to break them and not willing to be broken. I think I share that with her too. And I enjoyed the freedom to be wrong in a character, to take risks and chances. And I didn't enjoy not being liked by a lot of people, but I learned how to put my head down and not pay attention too much to it.
I still can't believe that. I mean, I can't. I'm just saying. I wish you told me then. I would have, knocked some heads around.
Why? Oh, why didn't I tell you?
I know. Missed opportunities.
So different.
Life would have been so different. That little guy.
You would have been locked up. It would have been a whole nother documentary.
Russ definitely wouldn't have let me back on the set.
We've also got a good question from Linda Whitehill Anderegg. She says, I'd like to know what Nana is doing these days and what we can see her in.
I keep popping up here and there, but mostly what I'm doing is writing on this theory I have for actors to approach the business as craftsmen. Bradley Whitford, who's a big fan of his, I'll roughly say what he says. He says, go into the business if you love to act, but not if you love being an actor. And I think, especially in America, we need to move toward that, toward the joy and importance of being storytellers, and move away from the power, importance, the celebrity aspect of it. And I think it can actually be a more fulfilling, happier life of being an artist. So and I'm finding this in neuroscience. So that's what I'm doing. I'm studying the brain and the way it functions, and how to hack that as an actor.
Wow. We've got a really interesting question here from Michael Kleberg, and you may or may not be able to answer this. He says, did you read or watch The Man in the Glass Booth before you shot this episode? It bears a strong resemblance to that play, and Maximilian Schell was otherworldly in the late 70s film. Have you heard of that?
No, I didn't. And I've never seen it, but I'm going to put it on my list right now.
Yeah, anything that bears a resemblance to that it kind of piques our interest, doesn't it?
Yeah, very interesting. And of course, I've heard of the movie, but there's so many unbelievable movies I haven't seen. I've yet to discover.
Oh, Ryan, can I ask a question? I think I saw one of the fans ask this one, and I thought it was a really good one.
I hate reading anyway.
If the show was written today with your character in the show, how do you feel it would be written? Would it be written very similarly, or do you think it might have taken a different path That's a tough question, because if somebody asked me that, I would struggle with that question. But it's an interesting one because today is different than the 90s in many ways in how we deal with things. And one of the things, as I've learned today, is how much pushback you got for what you did with your character. I'm wondering if you would have that same pushback today, and if you didn't get that pushback, would you have? I wonder if the character would be different in a sense, because
it wouldn't be pushback for the way I
correct
a female.
But do you think that the friction you received, in a sense, because you said I put my head down and I just kept going forward, but if you didn't have to put your head down, I wonder if there would be there would be something different in that. I just thinking off the top of my head,
I know what
right?
you're saying.
You know what I mean?
It made me focus and fight for what I was doing, because it wasn't easy. But it's very possible. But I think what would become, it would shift from the feminist, am I being a good one or a bad one, or should I be one at all, to terrorist. Am I too sympathetic? Am I not sympathetic enough? Where do I fall there? So I think I would still be a character that people didn't easily accept.
I think Ira has said from the documentary, right? He says we couldn't do DS9 today the way he did it, if I'm correct. He said something like that. Yeah? Sirach, did you remember hearing something like that?
Sirach was napping.
No, I think no.
He was waiting for himself to get back on screen.
I really, I'm always waiting for that. But I think that he was saying that if it was done today, that it would have a different reception. That it wouldn't have gotten the backlash and the perception that it got as this dark show that was not really progressive. And I think that in a lot of ways, this show set the boundaries and set the mark for a progressive show dealing with very critical issues and being thought-provoking. It is the benchmark, in my opinion, for good quality sci-fi writing.
And acting. Really watching us, they weren't watching us very carefully.
Oh, I didn't even watch us until now, and it's funny because I'm watching it now, and it's still relevant. It's still gripping. It still has you like sitting at the edge of your seat, saying, "Oh wow, this is good television."
Sauron took its gaze off of us, which gave Ira a lot of freedom.
Sauron,
Sauron, Lord of the Rings reference, the bad guy.
That's okay. We love Lord of the Rings. But how interesting is it to note that your show and shows like it would be better received now, and Nana would receive less friction as an actor nowadays because of what you did 25 years ago? That you guys actually...
That's weird.
Yeah.
That's a weird thought.
It's kind of some weird conundrum thing, but we're Star Trek people, so we're used to that. But you are the reason, Nana, like for your, for you, you're the reason that somebody like you now can portray a character with less friction like that.
You're the trailblazer, Nana.
Well, it's supposed to work that way. We all stand on the shoulders of the people that, come.
And that's what Shaniqua had told Dave and Kai from the documentary in Vegas. She said to them, I stand now upon your shoulders, so thank you. They're DS9 fans. And now you have strong women in Discovery, that you are trailblazing, and the trailblazer here. And it's really good conversation. It's really fun having this conversation about all this and your journey, And
thank you, Nana, on behalf of girls like my daughter that can grow up and have somebody to look at that's a strong woman, that's fierce and knows what she wants and is not going to take any BS from anybody. That's what our girls need to know out there, that they can be independent, they can be who they want to be.
And we want to get Nana's reaction to that, but we got to run right now. We'll get it on the free-for-all right now. We'll be right back, okay?
Cool.
And by the way, thank you so much, Nana. You're awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being on the show.